red light is on the camera. All right. What I'm going to do, also starting each new class since we're having trouble, is today is Monday, the 28th of September. So if you see this, you'll know what lecture this is and what day. And this is World Thought. Okay, up here behind me is quote number 13. And the morning sunrise is God's way of saying one more time, go make a difference, touch a heart, encourage a mind, inspire a soul, and enjoy the day. Okay, also over here, quote check will be, these 13 quote checks will be due on Wednesday. And again, you do like you always been, either submit them or hand them to me in person. All right, let's take care of it. Now, moving on, today I gave you some questions as an intro into chapter 5, Augustine, and they were simple little things. Number one, it said Augustine stood at the moment when something happened, and I'm going to take this student right here. No, I'm not either. All right. When all civilization in the West might have vanished. Okay. 2, his aim was to save what? 3, Augustine did 3 things for the world or within the world or something to that word. What were they? Just list them. Let's see, what'd you write? Oh, that's a different paper. He was an amazing thinker. He wrote extremely well, and he did great deeds for his communities. Actions. Could be the right answer. You never know. Okay. Then from those ideas, in question 3, what great movement occurs? What'd you write? Okay. That's part of it. What is the Great Conversation? It's part of a big worldwide movement. We'll come to that later. That's a hint for you people who haven't turned something in. One of his greatest writings was called and then we'll discuss it later. And his other major writing was, he wrote many, many things, but he has 2 major writings. And they are 2 things we're going to look at. One more than the other, but we're going to be looking at those this week. Okay, those were the questions that you were supposed to submit or turn in to me, as today is Monday the 28th. Okay, I'd like to give you some information. Some of it's out of your text, some of it is not. But anyway, setting the foundation for Augustine. It was a late Roman era, in the beginning of medieval Dark Ages. And somebody asked me already, are the Dark Ages and medieval era or time in history the same? And I would like Cody and Adiadre to tell me in about 5 minutes. They get some time to think about it. Are they the same? Or is there a possibility the medieval era has 2 segments that come in and play with history? We're going to find out, because they're going to give us perfect answers. Okay, now, Augustine was actual dated life was 354 to 430 AD. Um, huh? 354 to 430. Now, notice the reason I overstating this is notice the time period between the last major world thinker and writer. Okay, we went through Homer, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and then the one we just finished was Virgil. Notice the span of 400 years. And it has a meaning because I call it almost like a dead period. There wasn't, uh, status quo was going on, life in general, except for the one major occurrence, you know, Jesus. But we're not looking at that specifically right now. But first-rate thinkers come in bunches, it seems like, in history. Um, and you could go modern history versus ancient history, but you'll see that pattern. And there hadn't been one. And when we think of 400 years, that's a long time. Um, so I want you to realize that. Now, what was happening with Christianity stayed alive, and it was growing. The church, up until this time, was still growing. It was still becoming part of the Western civilization, as they call it. Um, Now, because it was dominated by Christian views and thinking, the author and the scholars say, is it possible that the so-called Christian era of these years could provide a first-rate thinker? And your textbook relates it that way. Is that possible? Well, they say yes, and that guy happened to be Augustine. Excuse me. With my sinus surgery, I still having problems. Okay. Now, Augustine was unique in that the book, since we're using your text a lot, he comes in a threefold manual or pamphlet, instructions how to put it together. And his threefold major qualities were he was a great writer. And to go along with that, he was very good as being a public speaker. And the most important thing, in my opinion, as a person that looks at history, is his actions projected many things, as we're going to discuss here. A writer, a speaker, and then he wasn't just saying things and writing things, he was actually doing it. And to me, that's a theme of a good Christian, and he was thought as a Christian. In fact, he's labeled later as St. Augustine. He becomes sainted. Okay, important part is to realize for the past 400 years, the conversation, as they call it, the thing that was going on in the world was centered with Christians reacting to the things around them. This is the ending of the Roman Empire, but they still reacted. What happens is there was thousands of Christians out there, but when it came time and got right down to it, because Rome was the power and Caesar, let's say, if he came through your town, even good Christians would bow. That was what you had to do. You could be killed with the sword. A sword is a symbol, of course, if you did not. So they played the game. And I think we do this a lot ourselves. even though we have Christian principles and we believe Christian things, and a lot of our actions relate to that, sometimes to get where we want or we would like to see the world or people around us to be like, we'll give and take a little bit. And once you start doing that, it becomes a habit. Um, One of the reasons they did that with Rome and Caesar was he controlled, well, any city that wanted better water, better roads, better this, Caesar paid for it. And Caesar was considered the god, the son of God, excuse me. Not God, but the son of God at that time. So keep that in mind. This reflected how Christians, not all of them now, but a good share of them behaved. I found myself, I've done that. Not to be dishonest or anything, but sometimes just to get through it, I'm not going to mess with that, so I'm going to do this or this. And I really shouldn't be doing that. Okay, now, he saw this. He wanted people to know about this. And in all his writings, we're going to name right now the two major books that he wrote. And I'm briefly going to introduce them, but we'll come back to the meat of the book, sort of. The first one was called The City of God. And the second one, of course, which is in your text, and it's just part of it again, is the Confessions. These two great works is what Augustine is noted for in what he projected on people of the time. Now, a statement is made that civilization in the West, and that it's almost time for my two students here today to answer a question, but civilization in the West, as the world knew it, might have vanished if it wasn't for his teachings, writings, speaking, and him going around and almost like converting people. We must keep this alive, or this is going to go away. So, with that in mind, these two books emphasize what I have written up here. Probably can't see it too well since I'm sitting in front of them. Augustine's mind, heart, and action. And we'll get to the rest of it in a minute, but those three things is what he was trying to get across in these two major writings. And all of his smaller or other writings, not that they're any worse or anything, always emphasize those three things. And right below that love is everything. And I know you've heard those before. In who we've studied already, notice the pattern of those same scholars passing that on. And I've had a couple students ask me, well, it's got to be God, it's got to be love. So what's so unique about this person? Well, one of the things I said to them was, look at the time span, and look what happened to the people in the world that followed God, that followed Jesus. They kept falling away. They needed to turn. They needed to repent. They needed to come back. And God gave the Israelites, they gave every, chance after chance, and yet we failed, or we reverted to the old ways that we should not be doing. So, now, I'm going to skip the question I said that you guys should be ready for and ask you another one. Why do they say the civilization of the West? Why is that important? Is there an east? Is there a south, a north? Western civilization, they keep referring historically to this. You people out there, think about that. This is here's something that might make it easier. I'm not going to do that because Western medicine doesn't believe that we should be doing these other things to our body. You know, the medicines we take. It has to be FDA approved. It has to be this. And all of medicine, all the doctors that you guys see are basically Western thinkers of medicine. Does that ring a bell? History-wise? The Western? Why the word Western? Wild guess. I'm assuming it's a guess. Your birthday comes first, so you get to go first. Why not a word like Eastern way of thinking? Okay, hopefully they heard that, but what he said is thinking of America, the Western culture after, what'd you say again?
Like the Enlightenment era.
Like after the Enlightenment era. Western way of thinking. Well, we're not there yet. So they refer to it as the Western civilization. So if you lived over here in the Byzantine Empire, or you were part of the dynasties in Asia or China, your way of thinking was not like this way of thinking. And this way of thinking was and who's in power, who is actually dying out at this moment in history. The Roman Empire was everything. They already conquered everybody else. You know, at one time the Byzantine Empire was then the Greeks, you know. So the Greek way of thinking, the Roman way of thinking. That's all it means. Just wanted to make sure that it was clearer than mud. Ditto? You agree? I think she's going like this. It's Audrey, folks. Turn around and wave at them. You guys, all you do is see the back of their heads. You never get to see the front. All right. Now, you've had more than 5 minutes to think about this for the class. The Dark Ages, the medieval era. Is it the same? Cody shook no.
I think it overlaps. I think the medieval era is the larger, the Dark Ages is a period of the medieval era.
Give him 100%. Okay? He got it right. I hope you heard that because I'm not going to repeat it. Yeah, I am. He says the medieval era is a period of time, and the Dark Ages was just a segment of that era of time. And that's right. And it goes on many years before things like the Enlightenment or the Reformation or things just in general started to change. Once again, look at Augustine, period of life. He's actually alive when Rome falls. He's actually alive since Rome is not in power anymore in the world, who is? And this is where man or civilization gets a little bit lost. And this is why Augustine is the hero at the moment, because he's preserving those past 300-400 years of Christianity and the way things need to be done. We need to keep the church alive. We need, the Christian point of view. no one took it upon themselves by their actions, their speaking, and their writing, it would have gone away and it would have been something else. What was the next power? Did he foresee? Question you ask yourself, did he foresee something change? Well, he did, and not to give the secret away, he was more concerned that the things that were written back here, that your mind and heart and your actions, while we're waiting for the next great thing to happen, we are the happening. We are the movement. We are the Western civilization way at the moment. That's what he's saying, and he takes his lifetime of repeating that over and over and over. Okay, some more specific facts about him that I wrote down. And I copied some from my past notes of the past few years. He was the only writer since Apostle Paul in the Reformation whom both the Roman Catholic world and the Protestants, because they lived side by side, loved and appealed to and could identify with. Now, he didn't pick one over the other. They picked him. So there's your hint to the next power struggle is the Roman Catholic Church and what we call today, and most of us know the difference between Protestants and Roman Catholics or Buddhist, Muslim, the other parts of religion in the world. Okay, and at this time, the Roman Catholics and the Protestant Christian movement are dominant. The others exist, but they do not dominate. They only dominate within their part of the world. The Roman Catholic and the Protestant is spreading. And if it's going to spread, we want to make sure it's done correctly. That's what he's saying. Okay, his mind behind me, you might not be able to see it on the camera, but I've already repeated it. His mind, heart, and actions make him these words. Every man writ large. Cody told me earlier what that meant, kind of, writ. A writ is a decree. That every man has a decree, and the decree basically comes through mind, heart, and your actions. Which leads to this. This is Greek, German, one of the powers, Latin. Latin was one of the dominant languages. I was just testing you guys. Latin. And basically, it means the same thing, but this is added to it. And even past scholars that we've already read about and talked about, and what God says, there are faith. What's the other one? Remember I call them the three. Faith. The love is listed last, but love. Remember it? Holy moly. Yeah, I said holy moly. Anyway, belief, faith, love, I'm throwing out other adjectives, all that, your actions, your faith, your beliefs. But the greatest of all, God said, is this. Love thy neighbor, love thyself. Love is always the greatest. And of course, I'm sure he copied it from past people and his Christian values. But remember, it becomes a saying, and I'm going to say it to you. And I'd like you guys to write it down. I'll go a little bit. Man, everything that man does, which he states, here we go. We are made in the infinite image of infinite intelligence and infinite love. Okay, that comes again from his belief in God and what action should do. Again, here it goes again. We are made in infinite image, excuse me, of infinite intelligence and infinite love. So the three words, image, intelligence, and love. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but scholars before, like Plato, Homer, remember them saying things like that? Aristotle, Socrates, we are made in an image, in that image. And one of them really stressed how important it is to have intelligence so you can get ideas that can be systematically. Those are the things you should remember about certain individuals in history and a little bit about them in general. But one more than the other said, intelligence, to be able to think freely, to be able to do this, will lead to you as an infinite person that loves and can accept things and adapt and adjust and adopt. So hi, good morning. You're on TV. I told you my class is different. All you new students. But anyway, that's the basic information on Augustine. Now, on Wednesday, we're going to introduce the two major books, the City of God and the Confessions, and give you a little background of those, and then we'll start out of your text talking about the Confessions. This is one of the easier ones to understand when you read it and what it is. For example, they're both conversations, they're both poetic, they both can be rhyming, singing, chanting. It kind of fits how they spoke in those days, but this one's these are easier to understand. They have direct correlation to things, and we're going to talk about those. So we're going to sign off, and hopefully this will work this time. And again, this is Monday, September 28th session on Augustine. And I thank you and have a great day. Love you all. Bye-bye.